Hey gamers, it's Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here doing a video with a new friend and fellow reader, Theo. He's also known perhaps as Geeky Gamer Guy. So Theo,
Hello.
how you doing today?
I'm great. We're talking about books, so I'm like all into it. So that's like my jam.
So before we talk about books, why don't you tell people if they don't know your channel, like who you are, where can we find you?
Oh yeah. I Geeky Gamer Guy, like you said, Gaymer, and it's not gay mer guy, it's gamer. Like everybody's like to think that I like to do some sort of swimming or something like that. That I'm not a fish. I'm a gamer. But all the social medias, literally, I do YouTube primarily, a lot of previews and a lot of stuff like that. But I'm always on Instagram and on Twitter or X, I guess, and love to love to talk about board games all the time, and just really bring more diversity to the hobby. And that was basically my goal, and that's what I'm here for.
So I think it's funny you talk about that misread of your handle because I'm like,
Yeah.
well, maybe he has a Kindle Unlimited subscription.
I'm telling you, literally
Monster
the
romance,
algorithm for a
baby.
long time, I'm like, why are you serving me up people who swim? Like, I don't, and it's like, oh, I see, I get it, a gamer guy. It was my tagger because, like, literally when I first started, obviously there's the hobby has opened up a little bit more, but when I first started like 6 years ago, literally that I was trying to just be an identifier for people so they can go, hey, I'm gay. I'm gonna go check this out. Like, like it was just a way for like I didn't see enough people in the hobby that were like me, so I just wanted more people to be like, hey, if I there's somebody who likes it too, and I'll check it out. You know?
Awesome. And
Yeah.
so those of you out there, Theo and I decided to do this video because we kept kind of talking to each other on Twitter about stuff we were reading.
Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah, so we have like a shared passion for books. We were both talking about how if we didn't do a board game channel, maybe we like would have, maybe we should have done book
Should have.
channels.
I mean, Liz, I'm not kidding you. That option's still open, okay? I'm just saying.
Book Talk has room for all of us.
Right, exactly. Oh, I love
Oh
that.
man. But
Yeah, no. It was literally if I didn't find the thrill and amazingness of board games and what the hobby could do and all that sort of stuff, I would definitely have been the person that was reading. I've read since I was a kid. I always enjoyed doing that sort of stuff, like Red Wall and all that sort of stuff.
oh
That
my
stuff
god, those were so
I
good.
know. I love those books so much. And so like it was just one of those ones where it's like if I had not done board games, that would have been what I did.
I like
So
it.
yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I think the only thing I spend more time doing than gaming is reading.
Same. Same.
Like
Like if I like I have noticed that I've gotten more into like I've gotten more into solo gaming and then war games and all that sort of stuff in the recent years, but more times than not I'm reading. That's usually what I'm doing. Yeah.
yes.
I love it.
So me too. So on that note, Theo and I have put together our top 5 favorite books that we read in
Yes.
2023. I have no idea what you read other than that we both
I am
really like memoirs.
so excited to see every single one. And believe me, I will keep a note up so that I will note every single thing that I don't have so that I can go look at them.
So I'm super pumped about this because yeah, so things we have both read. I don't know if they would have made your list, but they're things we both read. You and I were really into like memoirs this year. So
Memoirs was a thing.
we both
Yeah.
read Spare.
Yes,
So the
Bear. Oh,
Prince Harry memoir. It was great. He should do
yes.
more audiobooks because he does have a really good voice.
Such a good voice. And also, like, I didn't want to put it on the list, and it's kind of an honorable mention, but not, I didn't want to put it on the list, but it was the Britney Spears memoir. That whole entire, oh God, I forgot what it was
The
called.
Woman in Me.
Woman in Me. Yes, Woman in Me was a great, great read. It
It
was really
really
interesting.
was. Like it
Yeah.
really sounded like her talking. Her
Yeah.
ghostwriter
So
did a
much.
good job, I think,
So
capturing
much.
her.
Right.
But
Yeah.
my favorite memoir I read in last year was I'm Glad My Mom Died.
I have been dying to read that, and I haven't done it yet.
It's
So,
fantastic. So for
okay,
those of you
good
who
to
ever
know.
watched an episode of iCarly, it's by Jeanette McCurdy and it's about the difficulties of being a child actress with a narcissistic mother.
Love.
It's brutal, it's great, and she reads it herself, so, like, it's kinda interesting to read
Ooh.
to I read on paper a lot and I audiobook a lot, but I like memoirs that are read by the person who
By
wrote the
the
memoir.
person, it feels so much more personal.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
really, like, you feel her talking about her mom and her illness and, like, everything she went through, and it's really an interesting experience.
Okay, right on the list. That's
Yeah,
I'm
also, like,
done.
what a title. Woo.
Right, right. And it's like that shock value that does a really good job of just making go, what is this? I'm curious.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so even if you don't know iCarly, you want to at least know what's going on with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've not seen, like, an episode in passing, but I was so, fun fact, I actually was a child actress. I wasn't super successful, but I did, like, commercials and stuff as a kid, and I would skip school to go to auditions. I
Can we
made
go to like YouTube and see this stuff? Like, is there something that I
Nah.
can? Oh man.
Somebody found a Knight Rider clip that I was in at, like, a one birthday party throwaway scene, like, one time. But what was really funny is I was starting to get calls for auditions, and I made my mom let me quit because I was tired of missing school.
Oh,
And then I
that's so
became a teacher.
cute. That's so cute. And that's so me. I would do the exact same thing. I would just be like, but I want to go learn.
Well, that was actually really funny, like, I think a lot of actors quit because 'cause they'd rather do academic stuff, like, the actor that played
Yeah.
Joffrey, Game of Thrones, quit for that reason. Um,
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that the actress from the Shelby Woo, remember, like, the Nickelodeon mystery
Yeah,
series? I
yeah.
think that she didn't wanna act, that she quit and became, like, some sort of academic or something.
Wow. That's so wild. But also checks out. I get that. That would just be
Yeah,
too much. Yeah, just be too much. So I get it. I would much rather go be an academic.
yeah, I'm kinda glad that my life did not take that path, but going to auditions was interesting, so, like, reading about her experience as a child actress, like, I knew enough from personal experience to be like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, that is true."
Aw. Yeah, you got that relatability. So that's great.
So, get down to the list, you're the guest. You go
Oh,
first. What
I
is your
go
number 5?
first. Well, did we not want to do honorable mentions or anything like
Oh,
that?
yeah, go for it. What are some
I
honorable
made
mentions?
two, I made two honorable mentions because we talked about it, and I was like, I can't just put one, so I'm gonna put
Let's get
two.
'em.
Um, I'm sorry, that was the cats. Um, my first honorable mention I'm going to be doing is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I've never done Becky Chambers
Ooh.
before. Have you so it was kind of like it's like a Firefly-esque kind of sci-fi where you're following the main character. Her name is Rosemary Harper. She goes onto a ship of a crew member of aliens and it's like aliens and you have the humanoid people, but like the story is I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's just like about them going on this journey. Like I said, Firefly. Firefly is the best way of putting it. They're going to go do a job, and the journey of how they get there is so nicely done. Like it doesn't have a lot of action, and that's kind of like there's a there's a obvious one on the list that kind of it sparked my cozy games or cozy books thing, and this kind of goes along the same lines where you're doing a lot of character development and you get to see all of the different characters and all the different chapters just have these really beautiful moments, and it's just like I listened to this on audiobook and it was so good on audiobook. I loved it on audiobook.
I'm gonna have to read this now because somebody else recommended it to me today,
Oh,
so that I should read
look
it.
at that. So here's
So,
your second recommendation for today. Yeah. So I have not read the rest of the series. Everybody said that the whole series is really good, but book one was amazing.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. And I guess do my second one.
Yeah, do it, and then I'll do mine.
Okay. Oh no, do yours. We'll go back and forth, back and
Oh,
forth.
sure, okay, let's do it. Okay, so I would say one of my honorable mentions has got to be Terran Wanderer. So
Oh.
it's from the Chronicles of Prydain. It's like book 4. It's by Lloyd Alexander.
Ooh. Okay.
And I read this middle grade novel series this year because I was working on expansion material for Oath with Ricky Royal.
Ooh, right.
And I
Right. Yeah.
asked Cole, like, what is like the lore for Oath? Like, what should I read to kind of get into the mindset of Oath? And he said, read the Chronicles of Prydain. So I read them,
Oh.
and I think that Terran Wanderer is like peak book in the series because it's the one where the main character really finds himself, and he goes and he tries all these different things and figures out how to relate to people, what he's good at, what he's not good at. And he has the heartbreak of finding something that he really admires, like a skill that he just is never going to master, and he has
Mm.
to go through like the pain of learning that about yourself. And
Well,
like all this is like
yeah.
him kind of learning to be a leader, and I just thought it was such a great book. Um
Oh, that sounds
Actually,
awesome.
I'm gonna be putting the books in my classroom. I've got some kids I think should read them. But
Aw.
just because it's middle grade does not mean that it's not a great book.
Oh no, I agree. I agree. Like just because middle grade, there's a lot of there's a young adult book that's on my list that I love them. I think that stories that are timeless and relatable to all ages are like my favorite. Like
Oh yeah,
I just love that.
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, what's your other
Um,
honorable mention?
my other honorable mention is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers.
Ooh,
I Oh, it was such a fun read. It's basically about Vera Wong, but she runs a tea shop called Vera Wang because she's trying to get people to come and go to the tea shop. But there, at the very beginning, there ends up being a murder in her tea shop, and she becomes a sleuth that's trying to figure it out. But it's set in San Francisco, and I lived in the Bay Area, so I love San Francisco, and that all the imagery that went with it was really nice. But the story was comical and fun, and the characters all had a motive, so they all were very good mystery. And of course, Vera Wong is just hilarious, and that like traditional Chinese mother who's just got that like she's very says what she needs to say, very to the point, you know. And it was a really fun read. I think I listened to that over like 2 days, which normally I'm not like that. Normally it's like I kind of trying to just spread it out, but I was like, nope, I gotta read all of it.
oh, that's awesome,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
My second honorable mention, I'm gonna say Bookshops and Bone Dust.
Oh
So
gosh.
that is by Travis Baldree and is the prequel to Legends and Lattes. And both of them are in, I guess it's a newish genre. It's called cozy
Yeah,
fantasy. It's like a very low stakes, like you know nothing too bad is gonna happen to any of the characters. And it's just like a very warm, fuzzy book series. But
yeah.
I had doubts about Bookshops and Bone Dust because it was a prequel.
For sure. I said the same thing when I heard that it was a
And
prequel. I was like, "Oh,
yeah, but it's probably one of the better prequels I've ever encountered. I thought it was
absolutely."
really well done. It really captured the same kind of vibes. I cared about the characters in that place. Like, you know how sometimes you read a prequel and it's because you know the future, you don't really care about anything that's happening in this book. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, yeah, yeah,
totally.
yeah, yeah. But this one actually
Right.
did a really good job of getting me to sit in an earlier period of the life of a character I knew and still be really
Yeah.
cozy and like reading a hug. It was great.
Yeah, for sure. And like I love that they made that you kind of got a little bit more of why Viv did what she did in Legends and Lattes. So it kind of had that like filled in a little bit of cracks, but there's still so much story left in that whole entire series that it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be great.
I kind of hope that there's now one where the kind of the epilogue to Bookshops and Bone Dust meets up with like another Legends and Lattes installment.
Oh, I hope. That would be
That would be
great.
so nice.
Yeah, that would be so nice. I think that Travis Baldree, I could see that happening for sure. Like it just looks like the way that everything lined up in that book, it was just it looks like it's gonna be
Yeah,
it looks like it's gonna time really nicely.
right. Like,
So
could there be another, please?
I
But
hope so.
it's so nice. Like, you know, sometimes life is stressful, and you want to read a book that's just sweet and that's nice, and
Absolutely.
that fits the bill for me.
Oh, totally. Totally. Like I 100% agree. Like it I can I might have had something else on the list, so we'll see how that goes. But like but yeah, it the cozy fantasy was a new genre for me. And
Yeah.
obviously you said that's a very new thing, and I took to it. It's just
Oh yeah.
it spoke to me in a way that I didn't think that I was going to, because like normally I'm the kind of person that can't handle nothing going on. Like you go, nothing's really going on. But nothing's really going on, but it's so nicely nothing's going on. Like
Right.
I
Like,
just
I
don't know
wish
how to
that nothing
explain
went on
it.
for me like this. Like,
Right, right. Like you're just going like that, and you're like, God, this is so nice.
Yeah, it's really.
So
I also want to shout out this book did a really good job of having a romance that you know isn't going to last, but they handled it really well.
so well.
Really well. Like very respectfully, like, the main character manages to have a loving relationship with a woman who isn't the one she ultimately marries.
Right.
And they know that. And it's actually, I think they did a really good job of like a relationship that's loving but temporary. And
For sure.
it was really handled respectfully, I thought.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the prequels, especially when you do that, you're like, oh, this throwaway person, but I kind of feel like that's not the end, and it was done so nicely.
Yeah.
The whole relationship was done really, really well. So I agree. I agree completely.
A rare thing. All right. So now onto
Yeah, totally rare.
the real list. No, these are all, I mean, all the books that I read some really
Mm.
great books this year. What's your
I
number
read
five?
so many great books. So yeah, like it was hard to pare down because like I was like, oh God, I had read like I think 50 books this year, so I was trying to like, pare it down. But my number five is definitely another series that I want to go back to, but it was A Darker Shade of Magic. Um,
Oh, oh, what's her name? I know what you're talking
V.E.
about.
Schwab.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the one with Kel. He's an Antari, and that's a magician that has the ability to travel between different parallel universes. And there's the different Londons that are in this book, and there's a red London, gray London, white, and then there was a black, but there's so there, but it's just the interactions between how him it's actually two characters. There's Kel and there's, oh God, what was her name? I'm trying to think. Kel and Delilah. Delilah was the other one, so they had two different perspectives on two different chapters. And Delilah was the one that I liked more, just because she's like a firecracker, so she says whatever she needs to say, and she's a thief. But it was a very interesting magic system that went along with it, and like I'm so used to fantasy being very traditional in this sense, but this one kind of just broke all of that and like made every chapter really exciting. So it was like the opposite of like the cozy games, the cozy fantasy. It just felt like it was like everything was happening all the time, but it was done like B. Schwab was. I had originally read Addie LaRue from B. Schwab, so that's why
That's
I
the one
read
I've read.
Darker. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So I had read Darker Shade of Magic because I heard that that one was good too, and it was by B. Schwab. And I was like, wow, okay. So pretty much everything that she has written, I'm probably gonna like.
I loved Addie LaRue.
Yeah, so
If I'd read
good.
it
Like
this year, it would have made the list.
it would probably have been my number one, to be honest. If like that one or oh God, what was that other one? Uh oh, the Evelyn Hugo.
Oh, the Seven
Oh,
Husbands of Evelyn
Seven
Hugo.
Husbands of Evelyn. That
The
would have been
Taylor
maybe not
Jenkins
number
Reid.
one. Yes, that
Yes.
one. Yeah, that one was really good. But that was last year, so it doesn't count.
New year, new books.
Right,
Okay.
new books, new books.
So my number five, I really, really enjoyed it. It was called The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. It is by Shannon
Ooh.
Chakraborty. So she's the same author who did the City of Brass
Oh
trilogy and the David Bond
yeah.
trilogy.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so I already knew I liked her work. I really like The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. So basically it is the story of a retired female pirate captain who has a daughter and she's trying to settle down and like live a normal life, and she gets tempted by the score of a lifetime, and she ends up going back to
Ooh.
piracy and like going back to get her boat and gathering her old crew, and they go on like one more big final adventure,
That
but of
sounds
course
so
everything goes
good.
wrong. um but it's so charming, and it's got like, how its mythology is often set in like real folklore, so this has got
Right.
like, a Middle Eastern, Islamic folklore
Oh.
vibe to it. And it, like she gets drunk and marries a demon at one point in her life, and so she has like these ex-husbands, like she lives this like wild life.
A
And
very flavorful life. Yeah.
she's a true pirate wanderer,
I love that.
and it's so charming. You really get to like all of the characters involved, even if they're kind of murderous thieves. And it's just charming. I really enjoyed it.
I love the correlate. I love how it was murderous thieves, so charming. No, Sold, sold. Like that sounds great. And I'm pretty sure, like I said, Liz, everything that you're gonna say on the list, I think I'm gonna like, most likely. If it's something I haven't heard, I'm probably going to want to read it like immediately.
Oh man.
Oh,
So
that
what's your number
sounds
4?
great. All right, so number four is a book. This is okay. I have to preface to this at the very beginning. This was a book that I had read at the beginning of the year, and I didn't finish it because I was like, "What's going on? I don't know. I didn't really like it. I didn't know how it felt." But it got really, really good when I went back to it and finished it. So this is
Ooh,
Last Night at the Telegraph Club. It's
I've heard that title. What is that about?
It's a book about this Chinese American girl in San Francisco during the Red Scare and kind of like her dealing with her queerness. And the Telegraph Club is like this queer club that was and like during the 1950s and all that sort of stuff. There was a lot, there was a lot of pocket places for queer people to hang out with, and Telegraph Club was one of them. And so she's wrestling with being a Chinese American and having to deal with all of the prejudice that goes along with that and all these bad things. Um, and then also dealing with her sexuality and what's going on with her. She's a young girl, she's in high school. And there's like this budding romance between this Lily and Kathleen, I think is the character's name. And it was so well done, but you have to get past like 40% of the book because the 40% of the book there's not enough going on, but once
Mhm.
it goes and it goes really really nicely. But like I also told you I had just discovered cozy fantasy, so I started really getting into pacing because I've always wanted a book that has like lots of action, and this one it starts really slow but it ends really really nicely. And like I guess because of the cozy fantasy, that greased the wheels for me to be able to finish the rest of the book and then love it. Like
Nice.
so yeah.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah,
good.
I've heard good things about that book. So if again, like I hear that extra time from somebody, it's like
I'm
okay, I guess
telling
I gotta
you,
read it.
it's great. It's really, really great. And like I just love the way the perspectives work. And like I told you, it was set in San Francisco, and I love San Francisco. And the imagery that was done in it was so nice. Like it was like I felt like I was walking those streets because I knew exactly where she was saying she was at. And I was like, oh, I miss San Francisco. So it was nice to have that book.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
it when books make you nostalgic for places.
for
They really
sure.
capture
Yeah.
it.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 4. So this is I let Cole Worley tell me what to read, and when I listen to him, it turns out to be good. So my number 4 book of the year.
That checks out.
I I actually tweeted about this today. I have only recently started reading sci-fi. I always kind of thought sci-fi wasn't really for me. I've never really been inherently interested in it. I tend to bounce off of space games, like it just And
Yeah,
so yeah, I've like read The Martian and like Project Hail Mary, but I never really thought I was gonna be a sci-fi person. But
for sure.
Cole recommended Aurora by Kim Stanley Robinson. And I know it's not everybody's favorite book by this author because every time I mention that I've read it, somebody tells me that. But I thought it was but I thought it was really, really good. It's a book that's about a ship of people who have been sent away from Earth to a planet that should be Earth-like enough for a human colony to live on. But because it's
Mm.
taking so long to get there, the people that you meet in the book are not the original people who decided to go on this trip. So these are people who have
Ooh.
been born on a ship, heading towards a place where they think they're supposed to want to go, but maybe they kind of don't. It's been generations now. And
Oh.
so they're really like there's all sorts of interesting social issues and stuff as a result of this. And like
Yeah,
there's
I'm sure.
they're trying to maintain biomes on this ship. They're trying like they have all this stuff but it's so delicate. Um
Wow.
and then the story's tracking this woman who's like the main character, but it becomes clear as the book goes that the story is being told by the ship. And
Oh,
so
that's so
it's really
cool.
cool. And I ended up crying about a sentient spaceship by the end of this book. Like, what
That's
is wrong with
books
you?
for you. Books do it.
I used to never cry. Like, I didn't even cry at the end of The Red Fern Grows when I was a kid, but
Oh, I
now I
cried in
cry
that one. I cried in Red Fern Gross.
but, like, now I cry all the time. It's like, I don't know what it is, like, I'm so much more emotional now than I used to be. I don't think it's a bad thing, it's just sort of, like, an interesting
No,
development in my interaction with media,
I get
where I was
it.
like, "The ship! Ah!"
My partner used to call me an ice queen when it came to like when we would watch any sort of show, and now I'm like blubbering on everything, so I completely get it.
I wonder if, like, the more you spend time in your life loving things and having things that you could lose and, like, losing
I
things,
think
the
that's
more
probably
you
what it
appreciate
is.
them.
There's probably a lot of like you can have the nostalgia of seeing how it was, and you want to just like hold on to that as much as you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah,
like, having lost something, even if it's just your childhood, right? Like, I think that it makes you more emotional. Like,
absolutely.
my high school students are super icy, like, they're just totally, but
Give them a
I was
couple of years.
exactly, that's how I was at their age, and I think, you know what? One day they're gonna read a book and they're gonna well, I hope they read books. One day they're
Right.
gonna read and
That I agree. I hope they
yeah.
do.
Actually, I had a heartbreak moment today. I've got this student who reads a lot, and I
Mm,
encourage her a lot. But
mm.
she's reading Normal People, like a Sally Rooney novel today. I was
Oh
like,
wow.
okay. I was very happy to see
Yeah.
it. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, do you like it? And like we talked about books, and I was like, oh, you should read this. I gave her another recommendation, and she goes, Dr. D, and I was like, yeah. She goes, nobody else reads, and I
It's
was like,
so
it's okay. I was
sad.
like, it's okay. It's okay. One, you just haven't found everybody, and two, the internet, like as you meet more people in the world, you're gonna find people who read. Like you're not
You're
gonna
gonna
be
find it.
alone.
Yeah.
I'm also kind of hoping that when they're no longer forced to do it, some of my students will start, but
Oh
we'll see.
yeah, yeah. I think also, you think about it as kids, you're also trying to like go against the man. You know what I'm saying? So if
Yeah,
somebody's telling you to read, you're like, I might not read. I'm not gonna do it. But then a little bit later, you might choose to do it, and then you're like, oh, I find enjoyment in doing this as opposed to being told I have to do it.
yeah.
You
My
know?
big thing is I try to make sure that my students know that I read and that I really enjoy different things that I read. Like I always
Mm,
ask them if they've read things, and I really get excited about things that kids have read. If you make me a book recommendation, I'll read it very often.
right.
But I also am like, oh, I read this and it was really good, and
Yeah.
I just try to model like this is a normal thing to enjoy,
No,
so
for
that
sure.
maybe someday somebody will get curious.
Yeah. And it just opening up the avenue because I think that also the kids, they're like, oh, well, I don't read. I don't read either. But if you show that you read, they might get curious enough to be like, oh, I'll try
Right.
this out, see how
I
it
mean,
is.
I thought I didn't read sci-fi, but then I eventually tried it out. I was
See, the more you know, the more you
exactly.
know.
Even old farts like me, that's what the students think anyway. Can
I love
can
that.
change.
I love that progression, Liz. Good job. Good job. Oh.
Oh man. So, what's your number 3?
Number three. Once again, just so you know, the rest of it from here on out is queer because you know what? Queer books
Go
are
for
my
it.
favorite books. So just so anybody who's listening or anything like that, that's where we're at. Number three is a post-apocalyptic book called The All That's Left in the World.
Okay.
And it was it's kind of like a queer romance, but the romance is not really the main thing. It starts off about oh God, how can I say it? His name is Jamie. He goes into this abandoned. He thinks it's abandoned house, but it ends up being this person named. Oh no, Andrew is the person. Jamie's the person that he's going to go stumble into, and they kind of have this how do I explain it? So it's after a super virus, like this was it was written by before the author before COVID by the author, but then it was edited and released after COVID, so there was some things that they tossed in that had like a super virus, but the super virus thing was before then. But it's how the world devolved around it and like this how about this like it's like a Walking Dead kind of esque feeling, but without the zombies. There isn't any zombies or anything like that. But it's like this budding romance of how it's going to be when the world falls apart, and what are you supposed to do, but you're supposed to live, and how do you live, and they have to go on a journey to try and find oh God, one of their family members. I don't remember where it was, but they have to travel through America, and they kind of have to deal with the goings and comings of people who take advantage of people because of the fact that there isn't that many of them, and
Yeah.
it's how can I explain it other than saying that I didn't think that it was gonna be as nice. Like, how could you say a post-apocalyptic was nice, but it was nice. It ended up being a very nice book. So, and yeah, it's like a story of survival, but also like the romance was really, really good and sweet. I like sweet
Aw.
romances. Like I like I could handle spice, but like me, I'm all about I like just like sweet and like ooey gooey romances. Those are cute. And this one wasn't ooey gooey, but it was also very nice. So if you like post apocalypse, you like gay, you'll like this.
I will read like the full range of anything, but I
No.
actually think when you say like post-apocalyptic is
Mm.
sweet, I actually can see that because I think that like the post-apocalyptic fantasy, right, is that
Yeah.
you get to start your life fresh. Like you get to be somebody new.
Right.
Like in the destruction of the world, you can like rise from that if you survive, and like you get to start new, and you get to be a new person, and you get to do new things.
Yeah.
Like I actually don't think that zombie novels are really about the zombies. I think it's about the
Never.
life
Yeah.
that you create, right,
For
after everything else
sure.
crashes. And so I can see that. I can see that being sweet.
Yeah, like honestly, it's like I told you, it's really hard to put it because like you're saying post-apocalyptic, but it ends up being like yes, they have to deal with a lot of high stress situations, but it's more so about their relationship than it is
Yeah.
anything else, and it's nice. It's a really really nice book. I really enjoyed it. Like I like books that make you feel like they take you on a journey, but it's a journey that you liked being on, as opposed to being like, whoa, that was intense.
So not A Little Life.
They do, yeah, no.
I haven't. I own a copy. I've not read it. So for those of you who've never heard of this, A Little Life is like a huge book. It's supposed to be like the saddest book ever.
It's so sad.
I'm really not sure I can take it.
I I have not read it. I've heard things about it, and I'm just like, I don't know. I have to be in the mindset. I'm not saying that I'm not saying no. I won't say
Right.
no, but yeah, it's
Never say never. But
right. Never say never. And like we were talking about the chunky big books, those are the ones that are like I have to like gear myself up for. And if I know that I'm gonna be sad, I'm like, okay, I gotta be prepared for this. Yeah. So
oh
yeah.
man. So my number three is kind of a bittersweet book. It's on a hopeful note, I'd
Ooh.
say. It's
Okay.
called If I Survive You. It's by Jonathan Escoffery, and I think it's the book that should have won the Booker Prize. Paul
Ooh.
Lynch's Prophet Song was also really, really good. I can totally see why it won. I loved If I Survive You. So this book is it's kind of short stories. It's kind of a novel. It's long form fiction that's stories about people from the same family. And it's a
Ooh.
family of people who have come to the United States from Jamaica. And some of them still miss home. One of the chapters is in Jamaican patois because that's how the dad thinks, and it's from his perspective.
Hmm.
Um, but I want the main character, one they focus on the most, is a son who doesn't really feel like he fits in because he's not his parents' favorite child. He's a little bit nerdy and bookish. He feels uncomfortable with himself for a number of reasons
Hmm.
about his race and where he fits in with people in the United States, about his nationality and how he fits in with people in the United States, about his
Right.
nerdiness in a family that wants him to be more traditionally masculine. Um, and so he has all these issues with his dad and his brother, and you get to see different things from different perspectives. Um,
Hmm.
and in the middle of all of this, the family's all fighting over this crappy house that's like falling apart. It's sinking into the ground, and yet it symbolizes like their attempts to get it together. And so they all are
It
fighting on this
sounds
house.
awesome.
It's so good.
It sounds like I should have won.
It's great. It's a really fantastic bit of fiction because it really
Oh.
I feel like the author does a great job of making you connect with the characters really fast He does a really
Mm,
good job of expressing people's internal thoughts without it being annoying, and he creates
yeah.
these really messed up situations where you're still kind of rooting for people, even though you're like, "This is messed up." I will read anything this guy puts out in future years because I thought it was
Okay.
fantastic.
All right, that's great. That's a great thing. I definitely am a person that's been very character driven. So when you say all the character things and having to deal with the family and all that stuff, that sounds amazing. Like, and
Yeah.
I do love a symbolism of like that whole entire the whole house falling apart and stuff. I was like, yep, that checks out. That checks all the boxes.
It's also, I won't spoil it for you, but it has one of the most profoundly sad things I've ever read in a book, ever, as well. Like, there are
Wow.
moments that are really funny, and then there are moments that are just heartbreaking.
Right, right. I
So,
like that. I love the emotional roller coaster books, the ones that you're just like you laugh, you cry, deal with
yeah.
all the things. So yeah, I love that. Oh.
Alright, so
Um,
we're getting up to the top here. What's your number 2?
yeah, we're reaching number two. Okay, so this one we were talking about sci-fi. This was one of the sci-fi because I was very much in the same camp. I've kind of always been a person that went with fantasy. I don't know why. I like fantasy more than I like sci-fi. But this one blew me away, and it was The Darkness Outside Us.
Ooh,
It's
that's a great
um
title.
it's amazing. So it's another queer book. Surprise, surprise. Nothing there, but it's about two boys. They're 17 and 18, so I'm gonna make them boys, but two boys that are traveling to on a rescue mission to Jupiter because they established a settlement in Jupiter, so they have to go and get one of them is their sister. They're going to go and rescue them. And they have to like do the maintenance, and so like one of the characters is the ship, like we were talking about the ship. So the ship is one of the characters, but it's basically only them three, almost for most of the book. But it's a lot of mystery and intrigue because there's things that one of the characters start seeing like scrapes and bumps across the ship, and like this was the biggest suspense book for me because like it had such a huge twist. Like it was huge, and I don't want to spoil anything. It was just an amazing twist that happened that you didn't see it coming because it looked like they were just going on this away mission, but then things got a little weird and twisty, and I don't want to say anything else, but it just was like it ended in a place where I didn't think it was going to, and it was the biggest shock of this of the year for me. And I would make it number one, but number one is just inching out of it. But it was great. Like
Oh, this sounds good. I'm
it
also
was
seeing that it looks like a bit of an enemies to lovers thing, which
it
I
was an
am.
enemies to lovers, yeah, enemies to lovers, but like there is romance. There is a little bit of romance, but like I said, like I guess romance is kind of in almost all my books because I love love, and so like that's a. But this one had a twist that like I've never seen it in a book, and that's a I think that's a good thing for me. It's like I never saw it coming, and they had everything going really nice for it. So it's just yeah, if you want a big shocking twist that you're like, oh my god, it's that. Like I literally audibly was like, what?
That's
So
awesome.
definitely, yeah, yeah.
Alright, so my number 2, I did not even know how much I was gonna like this book. I got it because it was like
Ooh.
$2 on BookBub, and I like to buy book deals. It won a Pulitzer Prize in
Oh.
1925. It's like
Ooh.
an old, kind of forgotten classic, so I figured I'd give it a read. It was
Yeah.
great. It's called So
Nice.
Big, and it's by Edna Ferber. So Big by
Okay.
Edna Ferber. It is
All
about
right.
this woman named Selena who
Okay.
she's she's very vivacious. She lives kind of this weird life with her dad, and then he dies, and she has to figure out what she's gonna do. But she is like this woman who's full of color and she's full of life, and she's very interested in appreciating life in its beauty. And she ends up being a school teacher out among these, Dutch people who are very staid, serious people. And they laugh at her because the first thing she says as she's driving out there, like in somebody's wagon, is that the cabbages look like jewels. They're so beautiful to her. She loves books and she
Wow.
loves art and she's just this really lively person. She ends up getting married out there and becoming like a beat up farmer woman but she's still very much like alive. Like she's just this one of those people who's just like really an interesting person. And
Right.
she does what she does because she wants her son to grow up and really appreciate what's beautiful in the world and to have this bright existence. He becomes really interested in money and making money, and that's what his
Mm,
idea of success looks like. So it's
right.
kind of a book that's about their opposing views on what it is to live a good life and
Oh,
what it is
nice.
to really do things with your time that matter. And like, she's sacrificing everything so that he can do the exact opposite of what she thinks he should be doing and prioritizing.
Nice.
And so the story kind of the way that the plot works, their tension with each other and their worldviews actually is really relevant to how the story ends. And
Mm,
so I thought that it was really fantastic because it was just such a cool, I guess, depiction of a woman who makes choices. She doesn't sit around feeling sorry for herself. She makes the best of what she has at every turn. And even though the things that she does don't necessarily look glamorous, they're
right.
glamorous because she's doing them. And I feel like it's just such
Oh,
a cool story
I love that.
about I guess somebody bringing their own personal essence to things that look dirty or boring or
Yeah.
whatever, but it doesn't mean that they're not beautiful, and it doesn't mean that they're not special or worthy of
Aw.
It was really cool. I liked it a lot.
That
Um,
sounds great. Yeah.
but
Aw.
it was a fantastic read. It was quick. It was like really, I mean, I guess it won a Pulitzer Prize, so I shouldn't be surprised it was good. But I was
Right,
stunned by
of
how
course.
much I liked it, even though it was published so long ago.
Yeah, and I
And
think that's what the thing is, like, with classics, you think, oh, they couldn't have been that good, and then it's like, no, they're good. They're
no,
still
they're
they're
really
still
that good.
good. Yeah, they're still really good. I totally get it.
Yeah, some things really are
Wow.
that good.
That timeless feel. That's great.
Yeah, like if you told me somebody wrote it in the '60s, I'd probably believe you.
Right, right. Yeah,
Especially
because like I
historical
was about to
fiction or
say,
something.
like
Yeah,
1920s, that's pretty interesting that it's still so relatable now, because we're so vastly different than
yeah.
back then. But yeah, that's good. That's always a good story.
I mean, some things stay the same, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So
All
we've
right.
arrived at the moment of truth. What was your
It's
number one of
Well,
2023?
number one, we've already kind of alluded to it at the, at the most part of it, but without a doubt, for me, because I started at the very beginning of the book, and I've read the second book at the beginning of last, or at the end of last year, but it was Legends and Lattes for me, like hands down. It opened up the world to me that I could read a book that is literally about very, very little action, but still read so wonderfully and so nicely. And it's the only book that I can think of off the top of my head that I ended with the same warm, cozy feelings throughout the entire book, and it's exactly what I wanted. Like it's exactly what I needed at the time that I read it, and I would reread it over and over and still love it. Like so the story is about V, an orc barbarian that's coming off of battle. She's battling and all that sort of stuff, but she stops to build a coffee shop in a little town, and there's a little intrigue about what's going on, but most of the time it's about building the coffee shop and the relationships with the people that are in the town with her. And every chapter is so beautifully written. I have so Travis Baldree is the author, and he describes food like Miyazaki does in his films, where everything is just like they're talking about food, talking about coffee, and you're just going, I want to have this coffee. Like I
I feel like
want
this is a
it.
callback to our mutual love of Redwall as well, which
Yeah,
also
it's
has
right there.
superior food
Yep, right
descriptions.
there. It's right there. Exactly. And I think that's what it is. A lot of Redwall-esque feelings were in this book. Like just everything was written really well. I also listened to this on the audiobook. That was the first thing that I listened to, and Travis Baldree was the narrator of the book, and I think that he did a fantastic job. I love the way that he did different voices to do other things, but like it awakened something in me that I now need in every like I need this book genre to be a thing. Like it's just cozy fantasy is 100% my jam. Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to see more of it. I hope that it takes off as like a thing
I
because
hope.
I'd read it. Like
Yeah.
cozy mysteries without the murders and with more
without the
fantasy and
murders.
magic and stuff? Yes.
I don't know. I really, it took me by surprise. I did not expect it to be a thing, and it was. It was just like, I just needed somebody who wrote it in a way for me to enjoy it. And now it's like, everything I like it. It has changed me because, like, even when I watch like animes nowadays, like slice of life animes were usually not super my jam. Like, I could only handle so much slice of life. Now these like relaxing animes and all these other things have now become this. I've now appreciated it. Like, like I always thought like everything has to have action, and it doesn't have to have action. It does have action. Don't get me wrong. It's an amazing book. I don't want to downplay that nothing's going on. Lots of things are going on, but it's done so chill, but in like the best pacing. It just has a really great pacing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. It's just such a lovely book. I
Yeah.
don't blame you at all for like finding it that appealing because it super is. Like people,
Yeah.
if you've not tried cozy fantasy, just go and read Legends and
Yeah.
Lattes and just cruise. Like
And
get a
enjoy
coffee
it.
while you're reading it.
Right, right. Like,
Get a
just
cinnamon
enjoy
roll.
it.
Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
ooh,
You will need baked goods after this. That's all I can tell you.
yeah.
If you're not gonna eat it while you're reading it, you're gonna need it afterwards.
Oh yeah, it's gonna get you. Just be ready.
Right.
Be ready to
100%.
be hungry after you.
Yeah, yeah. Like, with 100%. Like, that's why I told you, like, Miyazaki, because Miyazaki does these moments where you're watching like Spirited Away, and he does the pictures of the food, and you're just like, I want this food.
Fantastic. All right,
Yeah.
so my number one, I guess this is like the year that I was really interested in, I guess, books about women looking at their life decisions because I had Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi on here, I had So
Yeah.
Big on here, um, but
A good theme. I think it's a good theme.
I think so. So my
Yeah.
number one is Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. I
Mm.
love Ann Patchett's books generally. Sometimes they kind of strain the boundaries of believability for me, but I don't
Mm.
care because they're just so pleasant to read. Like when you want to talk like cozy reading, like there's real stakes in the things that she writes, but it's also
Right.
just so like it just sucks you in.
You're
I think
right.
Commonwealth is probably one of the best novels I've ever read. It's my favorite novel of hers that I've read.
Oh.
But Tom Lake is the one I read this year. So Tom Lake is it's basically set during the pandemic, but this woman
Mm.
is like quarantining at her cherry farm with her husband and their three daughters. And her daughters are like kind of adults starting to launch into the world. And so she's really
Mm.
enjoying this like last time where they're at home. Like it's about the making you kind of almost taking advantage of quarantine,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So it's like a not that upsetting pandemic novel, which is kind of interesting.
That's
But
nice.
she ends up telling the story of her summer at like a small time theater that produces big actors. And she's
Ooh.
in a play, and that's the summer that she has a love affair with somebody who goes on to become a really famous movie star. And so she's not
Oh.
with the movie star, she's with her husband, and she has their three kids. And so it's like the story of why didn't you want to become a famous actress when it looked like it was lined up for you? And why didn't you marry the hot movie star? And like what happened? And it's like a really interesting story because you're just really compelled and like interested in it the whole time.
Right, right.
But it's also a story that's really uplifting because it's about being happy with your life choices and with your family. Like
Right.
she does not in fact feel bad. Like you find out why, but it's definitely like a celebration of living the life that you're really meant to live instead of the life that other people think looks enticing.
I love
Like
that. Like, oh my God, Liz, and you have great messages on top of it. Like, everything has like just a great message, Like, you're like, yeah, you need to look at life and be like, oh, okay, you're gonna just like be happy with what you've got. Like.
that might just be what
That's
I chose to pull out of it, but that's what I just
I'm gonna read it now and I'm be like, where did Liz get this? I don't even know.
this book is trash. No kidding. No, so I
Right.
do also
DNF
recommend.
after the 10th page. No,
So the other
no.
reason that you should, especially if you like audiobooks, Tom Lake might do it
Yeah,
for you because Meryl
yeah.
Streep did the audio.
Oh well. I mean, that's a given. That's already Meryl. Okay. Well, done. So that's 5 books. I'm really happy we've had like no overlap, which is really nice.
Yeah, a little bit with my
With
honorable
yeah,
mention and but like
yeah.
it's kind of cool. Like it's interesting. It goes to show you like we kind of touched on some of the same things that we liked on
For
Twitter over the year.
sure. We're very adjacent, which I love, but
Yeah.
we have things that are like a little different. And you've left me with 5 books that I need to read.
Yeah, I need to go read some of your recommendations too. Like I'm very
Yeah.
curious about, especially as I'm like, well, I'll explore more sci-fi. Like what kind of possibilities are there? Like your number 2 sounds the
Darkness
darkness
Outside
outside us.
Us. If you want a wild ride, because it was a wild ride for sure. Yeah. That's
Oh
great.
man, that sounds great. Uh,
Yeah.
so, so actually, I do have to go, but it's because my boyfriend needed to renew our library cards. So that's exciting.
Well, that is the perfectly timed for this podcast episode. Well, I'm off to go get my new library card.
It's true. Go to the library,
I
everyone. The
love
library
that.
is
Go to
the
the
best place to be.
library. Right. Best investment. You can do Hoopla. Hoopla is great.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, so great.
And Libby, but
And Libby. Yeah, yeah, totally.
but
Oh, that's
um,
amazing.
Theo, I'm so glad that we got to actually like have a conversation and like meet each
Yes.
other. Like I think I've seen you in passing once, at, like a PAX Unplugged or something.
Yeah, I think it was PAX Unplugged. Yeah.
But we've never actually got to sit and talk, and this was awesome. I really, really am glad that you came on and we got to do
I
this.
hope it's the first of many, Liz. Like literally anytime. This was great, and I could talk about books with you forever. So I'm all into it.
All right, let's do it again. Hopefully before then, but maybe same time next year. Like what will we read in
Yes.
2024?
Ooh, oh my God. I'm so into it. Let's do it.
But for those of you who are watching, I'm Liz. I'm on Beyond Solitaire. If you're here, you know. Hopefully. But this is Theo. He is Geeky Gamer Guy, and you can also find him on YouTube and social media everywhere as Geeky
Geeky
Gamer
Gamer
Guy.
Guy. Gaymer. Remember that.
And I'll put it in the show notes
Yeah,
too.
of course.
But Theo, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was amazing, and yeah, so glad we got to talk about books. This is like I'm so glad I get somebody else to talk about it with.
And then everybody out there, you should like, subscribe, comment, leave us book suggestions in the comments. Like, what was the best thing you read in 2023? And most of all, happy gaming and reading, everybody.
Bye.